Okay, welcome everyone. There we are. We are live, I believe.
We're live.
We are starting. Welcome everyone to Coin Bureau Trading. I feel like a bit of an interloper here because this is the first time I've been on this channel. But yeah, you are watching Coin Bureau Trading, the Coin Bureau channel devoted to all things technical analysis and more. I am Guy, of course, and I'm joined by two of Coin Bureau's finest. We have Nick, our CEO and my co-presenter over on Coin Bureau's main channel and also more Coin Bureau. And we are joined, our special guest, although we're technically guests on his channel today, is Dan, Coin Bureau's head of research, one of resident gigabrains. And those of you who have watched Coin Bureau Trading before will be familiar with him. He does regular updates there, covering all sorts of, giving all sorts of analysis. And he's going to share some thoughts with Nick and I today, and all of you, of course. So please do hit the like and subscribe if you like what you see. Before we start quizzing Dan, we've got so many questions to ask him. But before we start opening up Dan's brain, I'm just going to quickly pass over to Nick, who's got a couple of bits of housekeeping, and then we will just crack right on. So Nick, take it away, my friend.
Okay, guys, so first and most importantly, I will say, if you are not subscribed, please subscribe, because we are on the cusp of 50K, 49.9K. I think we have a few hundred to go to that 50K level. It was it's grown much faster than many of us had expected. And our goal is to get that extra silver plaque on our wall at Coin Bureau HQ for Coin Bureau Trading by the end of the year. So hit that subscribe. I think me and Guy, the goal is, and I chatted to, we decided about once every few in a while, me and Guy will hop on the trading channel with one of these streamers. So now we're doing it with Dan, of course. We'll hopefully do this with Aaron and Mariano. And the goal is obviously for us to hear from them who have their heads deep in the charts, exactly what's going on from a technical level. Now, obviously, for those who don't know, the trading channel is manned, as Guy mentioned, by three top-tier traders, Dan, head of research, Mariano, of course, the trading parrot, and Aaron, aka Moonin Papa. Dan, aren't you going to get a trading name soon or something?
No, I think I'll just stick with Dan for now. I'll come up. I'm sure that I think they're calling me the auctioneer in the comments because of how fast
we'll call it the auctioneer. Auctioneer.
They call me the auctioneer.
The Coin Bureau auctioneer. Pepe is going once, going twice, sold. But anyways, obviously, it's not just about me and Guy joining the stream as well. I think that the goal of the trading channel is to also, with these streams, get more, to learn more from other traders in the space, specifically streaming traders. Mariano did this live stream about a few weeks ago with Annie from TTP, Trade Travel Chill. But we'd also like to invite other traders on the channel as well. As part of our broader outreach and collaboration with lots of different creators in the space. Obviously, we've got foreign language channels, but we now want to work more intently with other traders as well. And if you guys, if you're a trading streamer, if you have a trading channel, if you have some insights in general that you think we could cover, one of our streamers could do with your live stream, then please do reach out. And the person you can reach out to do that is Raheem. He's our COO and head of partnerships, and he'll be more than happy to hear from you. And we'll leave a link to his Twitter in the description below. And of course, as I said, it's obviously traders for the trading channel, but we're looking to expand more broadly into different geos, different languages, and even into different types of content as well. So if you want to work with us in some way and you share our ideals and vision and mission for crypto, then please hit us up down below. So with that intro out of the way, of course, now we're ready to turn over to Dan so he can give us some of that alpha in the charts.
Yeah, if you guys one of you guys could share the screen.
Oh, okay. Guy, you can
let me throw it up there. Add to stage.
Sweet.
There we are.
Thank you. So I guess I'll start with just like a quick rundown of what we're going to be covering today. It's going to be Bitcoin, ETH BTC, which is a pair that I like because it's kind of like a proxy for altcoins more broadly. Then we have SUI, virtuals, and Pepe. So if any of those cryptos sound interesting, do stick around. Even if they don't, stick around. But starting with Bitcoin and Ethereum, and of course, feel free to stop me whenever you want, guys, when I'm going through these charts. But for Bitcoin and ETH BTC. I like to keep things really simple. I personally really like the Bollinger Band moving average indicator. I don't do anything special with it. Like I literally just go to Binance or to TradingView and I just put the default Bollinger Bands on. Whatever those settings are the settings that I use. And it's been, as you can see, it's been really useful. We're here on the daily chart for Bitcoin. And you can see that what's really cool is that it actually, of course, earlier, I think it was in mid-December, of course, after Bitcoin hit that top, then it like rallied down, and it's been struggling to get above this Bollinger Band moving average, that middle line. And I think that as soon as it gets above that, then Bitcoin's probably going to snap right back up to around like that 105K level. And then from there, it's probably going to go to around 120K. And the way that I arrive at that target is just at the recent lows here of like this full formation, somewhere around 92K, and then like upper range is somewhere, let's say around like 106K, or one, I don't know, let's just roughly like 10K. You just like slap on 10K to like whatever is the upper range here, and you're looking at something close to the 120Ks. I'm not like super, how would you say, like I'm not super specific with my price targets, because there's always like leverage. You can have like liquidations, like short liquidations that like cause prices to go higher, long liquidations that cause prices to go lower. So I always just try and like ballpark it. I'm not like exact, like it's not going to be like exactly 118,300. It'll probably go above that or below that. But yeah, for Bitcoin, the Bollinger Band moving average for me is like, that's all I need. I just slap that on. Even if we drill down to a lower time frame here, like the 4 hour, you can see that it tracks quite nicely, like when we're kind of like in a short-term bullish and short-term bearish phase. So you can see here on the left, this is when it hit 108K, and then it fell below that 4 hour Bollinger Band moving average. It failed to get back above it. And that's kind of like, if you were trading that, you would know that that's when you should probably go short, when it failed to get back above that Bollinger Band moving average on the 4 hour, which it had been holding pretty well. Of course, it does deviate below it, which is why I like to stick to the daily, because it can be a little bit noisier on these shorter term timeframes. But you can see that when there was like a little bit of a bump here, that it got above the Bollinger Band moving average on the 4 hour. And if we zoom out back to the daily, you'll see that bump above the 4 hour took it to the Bollinger Band moving average on the daily. So basically, like when it got above the one on the 4 hour, then the next target was the Bollinger Band on the daily. And it was rejected there, which is why it went down. And now we're again at the Bollinger Band moving average on the daily here. And I do think that Bitcoin's going to get above this in the coming days. And once it does, then it's probably going to chop around, let's say 100K, maybe for a couple days, and then it's probably going to head to around 105K and just keep heading higher from there. Do you guys have any questions, or should I go on to ETH BTC?
No, I'm just curious. So your preferred is the Bollinger Band moving average then?
Yes.
And what look back do you use, or?
What do you mean? Like, I don't have any special settings. I'm like, right now I'm just in Binance and I just slap on the default Bollinger Bands. So whatever the default setting is there. Same thing for TradingView. Like if we go to the TradingView, I'll actually do it live here just so you guys can see how it's done, for those of you who are following along rather. If you go up here in the TradingView, and then there should be a FX. So right here, there should be an indicator, technical indicator, and you just search for Bollinger Band. And literally the very first one, you just click on that, and you can see. So it's just exactly. Yeah. And you get the exact same thing, and it's basically the same as like the default one.
Default option.
Exactly. Okay, and you can see, you can see they're identical, and it's super simple. I'm actually going to do a research feed post about it in the coming days. It's kind of like a follow up to this stream. But yeah, any other questions, or should
I? And do you only use the Bollinger Band then? Sorry.
Yeah, mostly for Bitcoin, mostly I just use the Bollinger Band. Of course, I also try and, like, if we get rid of the Bollinger Bands here, maybe I'll actually go back to the original chart. If we get rid of the Bollinger Bands here, then of course I also do, I look kind of like at the key levels. So of course, like in this case, we could just look like, okay, we have like a lower range here, somewhere around like 92K, right? And then we have an upper range of the structure somewhere roughly, I would say around like 102-ish. This is on the daily, of course, just for anyone who's tuning in just now. And if we take the difference there, then you're looking at what, like around a 10K difference, right? From 92K to 102K. So once it gets back above 102K, then it'll go, to let's say 112 or 115 or whatever. And of course, it's like here we saw this deviation above, and this is part of why, like, especially for like targets, I don't like to be very specific. I try and keep it, in Bitcoin's case, it would be within like a few $1,000s or like even $5,000, because you see this deviation here. I'm pretty sure that was leverage, like the people who are going short getting squeezed and really going up to that level. And of course, there was a lot of people who were saying like, well, we saw a deviation above, so we should see a deviation below. And to be honest, it still could be coming, right? Like this could be, if we don't get above the Bollinger Band moving average on the daily, then Bitcoin could fall lower, and it could fall back down like into that high 80K range, which is what a lot of traders are watching. But for me, I don't like to be like, oh, like it has to deviate to the downside. I don't like to like impose my will. I've seen from the best traders, or like the traders that I follow that I think are the best, They try and keep things very short term. It's like, okay, like, you know, we hit this level until I see confirmation that we're going below that level. I'm not going to say we're going to, you know, to 88K or whatever people are calling for, right? And you can see that we had a bounce off of here. So everyone who was going short at 92K, thinking it was going to break below, they all got wrecked. Or, I mean, not they all got wrecked, but that's probably why we're seeing a squeeze now in the last couple of days. But sorry, guys, you were going to say something as well.
I was just going to ask, Dan, from a sort of non-technical perspective, like obviously we didn't really get the kind of Santa rally that you know, many people were expecting. The Fed coming out with that interest rate decision and then sort of saying, well, you know, kind of sounding a bit hawkish for rate cuts over this year. So I'm just wondering, like, you're obviously you're sort of bullish, it seems, in the short term,
Yes.
if you can get above the Bollinger Band. So
Yes.
I'm just wondering, are there any particular kind of factors that are making you bullish? Like, you know, anything out there in the sort of anything kind of crypto or macro specific that you're looking at that could get us above 100K again?
Yes, there's three. The first one would be, I guess, the FTX repayments that start today, technically. And they're going to be lasting for the next 60 days. And of course, I imagine a lot of that is going to go into altcoins, but around the margin, some of that could go into Bitcoin. That's one thing. So that's like more crypto specific. The second thing is the debt ceiling. This is all stuff, by the way, we're going to have I was mentioning, I think to Nick earlier, we're going to have some of the stuff in the newsletter. So, you know, check out that newsletter in the weekly newsletter. But the second factor is more macro. And that's that the debt ceiling is going to be hit in about, I think, about a week's time or 10 days time. And so the Treasury General account will probably start being drained. Without getting into the weeds of the macro. Basically, the government funds itself in two ways. Either it will spend money from its bank accounts, or it will issue debt. And of course, like the funding from the bank account in theory comes from taxes. In practice, it comes just like from issuing debt. But the point being is that when the debt ceiling is hit, it means that the government can't issue any more debt, which means that the only way it can fund it or like maintain operations is to draw money out of its bank account. And this ends up being, I wouldn't say it's not necessarily positive for liquidity, but it takes away one source that like is taking liquidity away, if that makes any sense. Where like normally when the US government is issuing debt, then like large pools of capital will like invest into that debt. So they'll, you know, around the margins, they'll sell out of like risk assets or out of stocks and whatever, and then they'll buy into that debt. But if no debt is being sold, then the appeal for these investors to, especially if the interest rate starts going lower as a result of there being a shortage of this debt. Sorry, I'm like getting into the weeds here. But the point being is that we have this FTX repayments, Treasury General account being drained down, just another macro factor. And then the third one is potentially China doing stimulus, which there was an announcement, I think about an hour ago or 2 hours ago or a report from the Financial Times that China is considering changing their monetary policy significantly. And I think that might actually be the reason why we've seen a bump over the last day or so. I hope that answers his question.
It does. So in other words, Dan, liquidity.
Yes. And of course, like I'm sure a lot of you have seen a chart of liquidity going around Twitter/X where it's basically saying like, oh, like Bitcoin super overbought and it's overdue for a correction. That chart is just kind of, it's fugazi. It's not. It's like if you look at the chart, it shows that Bitcoin was supposed to crash in like September, October, but it like never did. So it's
on liquidity. You can't do TA on global liquidity.
No, you can't. It's really interesting. It's interesting stuff. But anyway, I'll move now to the I guess
the most torturous chart there is. Let's see.
Yeah, the ETH BTC. Yeah, so I guess if we want some real torture,
give us some good news, Dan. give us some hopium.
So I think
you're looking at an ETH holder here. So
yeah. So we'll start on the daily, and this is that. You know, similarly to, I guess what's really interesting about the ETH BTC pair, to be honest, is that it has many instances where it'll get above the Bollinger Band on various timeframes, but then it just gets like slammed back down. In this case, we can see that right now, as we speak, ETH BTC is breaking breaking above the Bollinger Band moving average on the daily, which is, you know, basically bullish for not just Ethereum but altcoins more broadly. I know that a lot of people ask in the Discord or even just in general, it's like, why do I care about the ETH BTC pair? And that's for two reasons. One is obviously that it shows you the strength of ETH relative to Bitcoin. So like, for example, if there's going to be a big rally, like if there's a big market rally, if ETH BTC is rising, then that means that ETH will outperform Bitcoin in like fiat terms and percentage terms. So for example, here, like I'll show you guys, if we zoom out to the weekly, I actually think that ETH BTC is probably going to retest this weekly Bollinger Band moving average probably in the next couple of weeks here. And if it does, then that would translate to like, let's say, I don't know, like a 6 or 7% basically ETH outperforming Bitcoin on like a 6 or 7% basis. So just to use like a very simple calculation, if Ethereum, or sorry, if both were to double, let's say like the whole crypto market goes up 100%, then ETH would go up by like 106%. I know that sounds a little bit like it's a very exaggerated example, but that's kind of what it tells you. And if we zoom out more here, of course, this is on the weekly Bollinger Band for ETH. You can see that even on the weekly, it's been struggling to stay above these levels, but eventually it's going to get back above that. And you can see when the Bollinger Bands, when they start squeezing together like they are now, it kind of foreshadows, a lot of people are saying that Ethereum is going to rally in the first quarter of this year. This Bollinger Band squeeze that's forming here kind of confirms that. So if ETH gets above that and gets to like 0.04 versus Bitcoin, which is roughly 10% higher from here, and if it gets above that moving average, then I do see a scenario where it would squeeze to the upside. And just out of curiosity, I actually didn't look at this chart before I came on. But I am very curious just to see what it shows on the monthly. Yeah, so this I would say is when it comes to like ETH BTC is obviously the most important chart to look at, and not so much in terms of like the formation, but in terms of the Bollinger Band moving average. So you can see here that that back, I think it was in 2022, it like tagged it and then it went higher and then it collapsed below it. We will know when ETH is officially in a bear market and when when altcoins are officially in a bull market. When ETH is in a bull market and altcoins are in a bull market is when ETH gets above the Bollinger Band moving average on the monthly. That, at least in my opinion. And I forgot to finish saying that another one of the reasons, so the first reason why ETH BTC is important is for ETH, but the second reason is because most altcoins that have lots of economic value, think like Uniswap and Aave, all these like high valued altcoins, most of them, even stable coins, they all trade on ETH, or on Ethereum rather. So when ETH goes up in price, or rather when ETH is strengthening, then that tends to boost the entire ecosystem. Because if you think about it, like ETH is the primary form of collateral in DeFi. ETH is the primary trading pair for all of these altcoins on Ethereum. So whenever Ethereum rallies, then you see all these other Ethereum blue chips rally also, partially because there's direct flows there in terms of like people taking on leverage in DeFi, but also indirectly because the denominator in the trading pair is going up in value. So for example, like if we were to do like a Uni/ETH pair, maybe Uni and ETH, like the actual chart like this looks identical, but because ETH is rising in price, so too is Uni, just as a consequence of it being kind of tethered or merged at the hip with Ethereum. I know like Uniswap's on different chains, but point being, I guess, guys, to answer your question, give us some hopium. It's coming, but it's going to take some time. It looks like it's going to be a few weeks, probably a few months. The first, again, like as I was explaining in the previous chart, and in Ethereum for the ETH BTC chart, it's a little bit easier to see. Once ETH BTC gets above the Bollinger Band moving average on the daily, then we can zoom out to the weekly, and we can say, okay, it's probably then going to go for the Bollinger Band moving average on the weekly. If it gets above the Bollinger Band moving average on the weekly, then we can zoom out to the monthly. And then we can say, okay, the next target then would be the Bollinger Band moving average on the monthly, which is around 40% higher from here. So let's just say hypothetically that this month or next month, like ETH basically starts outperforming. You could see a scenario where ETH would outperform, like let's say everything is rallying, but ETH is rallying more. It could theoretically outperform BTC by like 40 to 50% in the next couple of months. And that would kind of make sense if you think about it. Like if BTC is about to rally, let's say, I don't know, by like 30% or let's say 50%, to see ETH rallying by 75% against that would potentially make a little bit of sense. Like just for the simple fact that I think that, as time goes on, especially as interest rates start to fall, you're going to see more rotation into Ethereum and into altcoins more generally. To be honest, though, like, even as I'm explaining this, I'm trying not to get ahead of myself. We have to take things one step at a time. The first thing is that ETH BTC needs to get above this daily, then it needs to get to the weekly, and then once it's at the monthly, then we can start celebrating and being like, okay, is this for real, right? Is ETH finally back? That's when people are going to be saying, is ETH back? Is when it gets to here.
Got it. How would you trade this in terms of like, so for basically, like, obviously people can trade the ETH BTC pair just by doing a pairs trade, right? That's straight up. But I assume, would you then, as it seems from your analysis, that you use the ETH BTC pair to inform your decision in terms of rotational flows from BTC to altcoins in general? And if this chart is looking bullish, it looks to you, okay, more than likely BTC dominance is going to fall, altcoin dominance is going to rise. Now it's too busy. So you yourself, more specifically, utilize this chart and do analysis on this chart in terms of your broader portfolio allocation perspective, not necessarily as a pairs trade kind of thing.
Yeah. Like for me, I guess I'll answer in two ways. The first is that for me personally, the way that I analyze these, the way that I look at these charts is it kind of tells me is like, is it a good time to accumulate altcoins relative to Bitcoin? Right now, the answer is yes, just because ETH BTC is just so beaten down. And so chances are, if you go and look at the BTC pair for most altcoins, they're going to look the exact same or even worse. Most of them look even worse, right? I'm not going to name names here. But in terms of like how I would express that as an actual trade, I mean, there's one way that is kind of it, not necessarily in terms of rotation, but something I've been mentioning in the research feed in the Coin Bureau Club is that, one thing that whales do a lot is that they will use crypto as collateral. They borrow against it, and then they borrow stablecoins to invest in other cryptos. What I think that we could see, like if I was a Bitcoin whale, it's just like, say hypothetically, I don't know how many Bitcoin whales are watching. Maybe you guys, just kidding. But if there's like, if I was a Bitcoin whale, what I would probably do is I would, instead of selling my Bitcoin per se, I would borrow against my Bitcoin. I would borrow stablecoins against my Bitcoin, because I can trust with relative certainty that it's probably going to be chopping within this range, let's say between 70 to 120K, let's say, just to be on the conservative side. We'll say that Bitcoin's going to chop between this massive range. And I'll actually show you, I'll actually go back and show you guys. If we look at Bitcoin on the monthly, you can see that the monthly Bollinger Band, which is kind of like showing where, in my opinion, the monthly Bollinger Band is a really strong indicator of like when we're in a bull market versus bear market. You can see if we zoom out here, this is part of why I love the Bollinger Band so much, is like historically, you can see when we're above it, we're in a bull, and when we're below it, we're in the bear. So you can see the bear market very clearly here, and you can see the bull market very clearly here. So long as we're above this Bollinger Band moving average on the monthly, basically, like, so long as your liquidation level is below this Bollinger Band moving average on the monthly, as someone who's like borrowing against Bitcoin, chances are that you're safe. Like, obviously, when it starts getting to that level, you have to be very careful. And of course, it could deviate, see like leverage liquidations. But what I would do, I guess, sorry, just to circle back to the initial thing, is I would take my Bitcoin, borrow stable coins, buy Ethereum, and then just like ride Ethereum up. And then as soon as I'm happy with my profit, or let me rephrase this. I would not ride Ethereum up in terms of like, that I have a specific price target in mind in terms of USD, but I would be like riding Ethereum up in the ETH BTC sense. So like basically watching this chart and saying, okay, so let's say I have like, I don't know, let's say I have $1 million worth of Bitcoin here, and I borrowed $500,000 worth of stable coins to invest in ETH. And then I see that this ETH BTC pair is like all the way back up to, let's say, back in the highs around 0.08. So basically doubling from here. And then I can say with relative certainty, like, okay, ETH has gained quite a bit against BTC. So I can sell my ETH. I can swap that back into stable coins. I can use a portion, or I can, swap back into to BTC, which a lot of whales will do, right? Not all whales will borrow against, but I do think that in this cycle with these wrapped Bitcoin protocols, I think we're going to see a lot more borrowing against Bitcoin with like CBBTC and stuff. So that's why I bring it up. Sorry to ramble on there. Feel free to stop me, by the way, guys. I ramble a lot.
That's cool. It's cool, man.
Yeah.
So
this is great.
Yeah,
yeah,
that's great. So let's. What we got next? What
we have next is probably what I think is one of the most fascinating charts. Of course, we have a lot to deal with here. So what you're looking at here is BNB, and I actually think that BNB is going to see explosive growth. And before I explain the chart, I'll just explain, like, I guess from a little bit more of a not a fundamental perspective, but yeah, I mean, I guess it's somewhat fundamental. So you guys can see that, of course, like BNB has been really strong. This is on the weekly. So the other charts were on the daily, or I mean, we were switching between them, but this one's on the weekly here for BNB USDT. This is BNB USDT, not BNB BTC or anything. This is back to USDT, back to fiat. So what's really interesting is that BNB has been very resilient. I would say like over the last, what is that, like year almost, like 8 months, 9 months, it's been super resilient. Like it rallied up earlier now it's last year. It rallied up in early 2024, and it's basically been chopping around that range. And what's really fascinating is that it's been doing this despite the fact that BNB, at least to my knowledge, it actually doesn't have like a large presence of native stablecoins. Like there's no native USDT, there's no native USDC. I was actually checking that earlier today. So imagine that you have this large cap layer one, which, like, for those of you who are unfamiliar, like a lot of the on-chain activity, a lot of that is kind of tied into stablecoins, right? Like in terms of DeFi borrowing, in terms of I don't know, just buying stuff, even trading altcoins. A lot of altcoins trade against like USDC, on DEXs these days. So I just find it very fascinating that BNB has been so strong. Of course, it's because it's related to the Binance exchange, but BNB has been so strong without stablecoins. And then, as you guys might have heard, Binance recently announced that it has a kind of like a partnership with USDC. To basically like push USDC adoption, more USDC trading pairs, which what kind of tells me, and again, I mean, it's very hard to say because of course BNB is more like under the wing of CZ, like the original founder and CEO. I know that Binance, the current CEO, Richard Teng, you know, he's commending the ship independent of CZ. Like CZ, I think legally, technically has no influence over Binance. But I do find it very interesting that Binance is moving closer to Circle with USDC, and then BNB is just sitting there with no native stablecoin. And what that tells me is like, you know, I think that there's a scenario there where either Circle or Tether, or probably starting with Circle, will say, hey, yeah, like we'll be willing to launch on BNB, you know, given XYZ conditions. Again, I'm not going to get into the details there, but you know, when it comes to the question of like, what is the catalyst that would take BNB this high, besides the link to Binance, I think it would be that you actually see stablecoins, like, you know, more stablecoin volume, more stablecoin liquidity launching onto BNB, which still isn't there. And even without that stablecoin liquidity has done this well. I think all it takes is for a native stablecoin to launch there, and you're going to see a massive move. So again, we're on the weekly here, and the way that I kind of measured out what we have, it's a classic cup and handle pattern. And the way that I measured it out, or that you're supposed to measure it, is you basically look at the bottom of the cup, which is around $200. We have the upper range of the cup, which, you know, is probably around like 680 to 700. Again, I'm not being super exact. I just try to like ballpark it. You know, I'm not looking at these wicks and liquidations and going above and below the levels. I just say, well, $200, nice round number, easy to calculate from, right? $700, nice round number, easy to calculate from. And of course, we have a difference there if we do our classic, I guess, like target math / cup and handle math. The difference between those two levels is $500. So we just basically take the difference there and we add it to the top of the cup, which is 700, and that gives us a $1,200 target for BNB, which is like a 70% gain from here. And I'm not saying it's going to happen overnight. You know, we're on the weekly chart here. It's probably going to take like at least a few months, maybe like half a year. But I do think that BNB cycle top, like I specified it here, like for the other for BTC and ETH BTC, how we were analyzing, that was all just like in the next couple of days, next couple of weeks. For ETH BTC, when we were zooming out, of course, that's over the next couple of months. But for BNB, I need to make it absolutely clear here that for BNB, we're talking about a cycle top. I'm specifically calling a cycle top target here of BNB of around $1,200. And I do think it's going to be triggered by this USDC stuff. I'm not personally trading BNB. I think the best way to play this, like if you were, because of course BNB is already so large and a 70% gain is not necessarily that big. I mean, of course you could, like, you know, go on an exchange and use some leverage. But the way that I personally like to play things is to just invest in like some higher risk, higher reward, like beta play, as Nick likes to say, on BNB. And to be honest, I haven't really thought of one yet, but but that's the way that I would look at it. But yeah, any questions about this one?
So so you think the dependency is on this catalyst, the assumption that they could have some sort of a stable coin liquidity coming in. And would that invalidate the cup and handle if it doesn't? I mean, or do you think how much of the cup and handle formation is dependent on this catalyst?
Not necessarily. It's just, so I guess I'll backtrack a little bit and kind of explain, like the way that I analyze charts is that I look at what the pattern is, and then I try and then I look around for like, what is the catalyst that could take it there? I'm not necessarily saying this is the catalyst, that this catalyst has to happen. It's more that like, I look at the chart looks bullish, and then you have to ask, okay, like what could possibly cause BNB to rally to that price target? You know, because the measurement I did here is more or less correct. I know that like almost for a fact. But then the question is, what could take it that high? What is the thing that could trigger? It would need to be something very big, very sustained when you realize that, you know, BNB is a very large market cap crypto. There would have to be a very big catalyst that takes it up to that level. And of all the things that I've come across recently when it comes to BNB, this potential addition, or I guess Binance moving closer to Circle to push USDC definitely comes to my mind. And think from the perspective of Circle, when you're competing with Tether, you want USDC to be out there as much as possible, which means getting it on as many chains as you can. And I definitely think that BNB, of course, when you go down the list of cryptos by market cap, BNB is what, like 4th or 5th? It's like, it's up there, right? It's one of the biggest ones. And if you're like a stablecoin issuer and you're going down the list, you're like, I'm on this one, I'm on this one. You're like, wait a minute, I'm not on this one, right? And so I think I don't know. We'll again, it's not, I guess, to answer, long story short, Nick, is no, it's not dependent on that catalyst. In the absence of that catalyst, could the cycle top be somewhere lower? Probably. Like, to be honest, it wouldn't surprise me. For example, if we just like are looking just let's zoom in a little bit here, more here. And if we just look at the most recent price action and we just look on like a more shorter term basis, say, okay, you know, like we have a starting point here somewhere of around, let's say 500. We have a upper range here of around 700. Of course, it went up to like 740 or something. And of course, down here it wicked below as well. But removing all that noise, all that liquidation and whatever, for BNB to hit around $900, I think would be a pretty realistic like target. And of course, from here, that would be what? Hold on, let me bring that down. So you'd be looking at around, I don't know, 25% gain roughly from the current price, 30%. So I think that for BNB to hit $900 as like a base case for a cycle top, I think makes sense. Of course, it would be, you know, like it would be a little bit invalidating of this whole thing. But I guess there's two different ways, again, that like you can look at cryptos. You can zoom out and you can look at the long-term chart, or you can zoom in more, just like over the last few months of price action. Which, you know, those of you who watch the Coin Bureau trading channel, you'll know that this is my personal preferred approach. To be honest, like I don't really like to zoom out this much on charts. But the reason why I did in this case is because I guess Nick and Guy were asking me. It's like, you know, find some interesting charts that you've come across, and this is probably the most interesting one. You know, it's not one that I have a very high conviction about per se, but it's one where, you know, I could see definitely BNB going to 900, and then maybe it'll like correct back down to, I don't know, like 750 or 700, and then go for that $1,200 target, just gradually rising with the rest of the market. What the specific catalysts are, I honestly don't know, but I'm going to be keeping an eye out for those and trying to remember them or take note of them. I hope that answers the question. Sorry for the rambling there.
It's all good, bro.
Yeah. But yeah, so I guess so you had a question, Guy?
No, I was just going to comment on the fact I think that partnership with Binance and Circle is just fascinating on so many levels, isn't it? Because when you consider like what you said about Circle wanting to get USDC out there, you know, compete with Tether and USDT, and when you consider that Circle is, you know, part of the Center consortium with Coinbase, obviously, you know, a big rival of Binance's, and like obviously as part of the settlement Binance reached last year with the DOJ, like there are elements of the US government or, you know, US authorities kind of working with Binance. There's just, you imagine there's just so many, there's so much to that story that we probably will never know.
Well, now that you bring that up, Guy, there's one really interesting string I guess I'll pull on there is I suspect the reason why, if for anyone who's wondering, like in the comments, or anyone who holds BNB and they're wondering why there isn't a native stablecoin on BNB already, my personal opinion, again, I'm not saying this is the case, but my personal opinion is it's because it's pretty well known that CZ has a really big influence over BNB. There's like rumors that he indirectly controls like 67% of the supply or whatever it is. Regardless of what the percentage is, I'm sure that CZ has a very big presence on BNB, and this might be part of the reason why these stablecoin issuers are a little bit nervous. Because what's some of you guys might remember a headline from a few years ago where Vitalik was saying that you have to be weary of these stablecoins because, you know, for example, if you have like USDC taking over, you know, all of Ethereum, and there's just all this USDC, then if there's a fork, then Circle would have the power to basically decide which fork do we support, right? Similar to like BlackRock and the ETFs with Bitcoin. So that's kind of like, I think, one thing where I think Circle and other stablecoin issuers can see if they were to go on BNB, if they were to try and like force a fork or something, it wouldn't be as easy. Like, let's say that they're not just like entering as the largest player onto that chain. The largest player on that chain is CZ. You know what I mean? Whereas for these other smart contract cryptos, let's say, I mean, for lack of a better term, it's just like more decentralized. There's no player that they're competing against. They're just competing against Tether or whoever for dominance of the chain, right? Like on Ethereum, a lot of USDCs on Ethereum, a lot of USDTs on Ethereum. And you can make the case that they're kind of fighting for influence over the chain. But for something like BNB, you can make the case that no matter how much USDC, no matter how much USDT, Tether or Circle put on BNB, it's still going to be CZ who's in charge, potentially. Again, assuming the reports are true, I don't know if they are. But that's one thing that's very interesting to consider, I guess, to tie into your point, Guy. But I guess you know, what you could say is that, again, like you never, like you're saying, Guy, like there's things that are just beyond our understanding that we'll maybe never know in terms of like the partnerships and deals behind the scenes. And just to circle back to the initial point, like it's in the interest of Circle, especially Circle, to get USDC out there as much as possible. And if there's a way that there can be a deal that's made that, hey, we'll bring USDC to your chain, you know, with CZ, I mean, like we'll bring USDC to your chain on XYZ condition, you know, like that we have you know, certain controls or whatever. You guys might even remember that that Binance has like some panic feature where they can halt the blockchain. BNB, not Binance. BNB has the panic feature where they can completely halt the blockchain and they can do a whole bunch of crazy stuff. So it's not something that, it's not necessarily an environment, I think, where USDC and USDT would be free to roam, let's say, the way that they can on other chains. But anyway, sorry for that tangent there. I'll move now. That's, I guess I'll move now to the SUI chart. I don't know if it's been a little bit potentially messed up here by the sometimes it'll get messed up. Okay, it's fine. You can kind of see what's going on. So I'll just move this.
Bring it back up. Yeah, just bring it back.
What's up? Can you see it?
No, we gotta.
Hold on. Oh, I see.
You re-add it.
You need to hit present.
Oh, I have to re-add it to the. Hold on. I think it's because it took the 1 second. Sorry about that, guys. Live. Now you know. This is how you know it's live and it's not AI. Hold on. Let me share screen.
Now, this would be an interesting one because SUI, like obviously SUI has been a massive performer.
Let me know. Let me know if this. Let me know if this.
I had it. It's all good.
Share the.
There we go.
Yeah. Share this and let me know if this breaks the stream again. No. Are we good? Okay. Oh yeah, it did.
No, it's gone again.
It did. Okay. So we've learned that going full screen will ruin it. That's okay. We'll make do with what we got. It's really interesting. Okay. I'll keep that in mind for next time. Not that we can't go full screen. So let me in this case. I hope this is visible enough. If not, you know.
Yes. Yeah, we can see. Yeah.
Okay, hold on. Maybe if I can just let me get rid of all these flashing lights and tickers and buzzers and everything under the sun now.
I thought you were going to trade for us, bro. I thought you were going to go.
No.
Come on, bro.
Okay, I mean,
Dan going to enter a massive position live on the stream.
You know what? To be honest, I think just for the sake of viewer, like for people who are watching on the phone or whatever, I honestly think I'll just draw it back out here on the on Binance, just because it's going to be really messy. I think with like it's such a small little screen, even for me, like I'm like having a hard time seeing what's going on. So this is SUI on the daily. We're here on Trading View, and I'll actually draw this out in real time because it's pretty straightforward. So we have so basically the way that, because a lot of people ask us like, where do you get these starting points and all this stuff? And basically what I do is I just look at, so we're on the daily chart again. I don't know if I already said that, but just in case. So we're on the daily chart here. And you have to ask, okay, like this recent move, like when did this recent move, or where did this recent move start? So here we could say it's somewhere around, I don't know, $2.5, let's say, more or less $2.4, give or take. Let's say 2.4, just to look at it, like just quickly. And you can say, okay, where are prices struggling to get above, right? And you can see that there's quite a big cluster here, somewhere around 4.2, 4.4. So maybe just because the lower level here is 2.4, we'll just stick this just around 4.4. And I bet if we were actually to switch to if I go to the original chart after this, because we have I believe we have the Bollinger Bands active there. If we were to go to the Bollinger Bands, oh no, they're gone now. Sorry, let me just add those. Yeah, that's actually really interesting. So when you're just doing basic technical analysis, like the way that I do on the trading channel, where I'm just looking at I'm just identifying levels basically of support and resistance. Chances are when you slap on, especially for the larger cap altcoins, if you slap on the Bollinger Band moving average, you'll see the exact same thing. Like here, you can see that it's literally like SUI right now as we speak on the daily is struggling to get above this the Bollinger Band moving average, which is around $4.4. And if we go back to our trading view chart here, you can see that $4.4 is roughly where the resistance is, and you can say that the Bollinger Band moving average kind of gives me confirmation that that's probably where the resistance actually is, which is really cool. But anyway, so we have a starting point of 2.4. I won't like write it out. I'll just keep it simple. But we have a starting point of 2.4, a resistance here of 4.4, and of course the difference there is $2. So that would give us a target for SUI of somewhere roughly around 6.4, which makes sense because it's like just before 6.5, which is like a psychological level, like 0.5 and round numbers and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. But if we take on here the profit loss calculator, and we see from the current price, then you're looking at what, like a 45% move to the upside from SUI's current price roughly. And I do think that that's going to, because you can see how resilient it's been. And even if we draw the bottom here, like to set a stop loss somewhere around like 3.4, which would actually make sense, or 3.2 maybe if you want to be super safe on the super safe side. But you can see that the wicks down, or like 2.5, 2.4, 2.2, somewhere in that range. And the risk reward ratio is a 2-to-1. So if it gets rejected from this level and keeps falling lower, then it'll probably fall to around 3.4 again. But if it continues powering higher, if it gets back above this level, then it's going to go to 6.4, which is a massive gain, right? Like for SUI. I do think that's my base case is that it's going to hit that target probably in the coming days.
Sorry, how did you just determine that 6.4? Just because of
course, yeah. I'll write it out again. So we have a starting. So basically, we're looking at the most recent price action here, and I'll just like write it out here just to make it clear. So the most recent price action that we're looking at here is basically since the start of November. So we basically look at this most recent structure, like this most recent rally, and we say, okay, where did this rally start, roughly speaking? Okay, yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. The rally started roughly somewhere around $2.4. I can just like throw it in, and then we can see, okay, where's the resistance, and chances, and it looks like the resistance somewhere around $4.4. And you might remember that when I switched over to the original and we look at the Bollinger Band, you can see that it's at 4.4 roughly. So it's like literally it's at 4.375. So if you want to be super exact. So like, but again, it's not being exact. And like you were saying, Nick, yeah, you take the difference. The difference here is $2. So you take that difference and you add it to the resistance level here, and you get a target of $6.4 for SUI. This is a short-term target. This is not a cycle top target. It's funny, like in recent videos when I was doing this technical analysis, they're like saying, oh, so you're only saying it's going to go to $6? No, this is like for the next month, maybe two. It's not going to be a straight line up, but if it gets above this resistance line and it closes for a couple of days, like we might see another chop like this. Like that's always possible, that it just like grinds and then it goes lower again. But I do think that it's probably going to really take off with the rest of the market, because we know with Trump getting
using the previous formation to inform future price movement potentially.
Precisely. And what I try and do is like I guess like I was saying earlier, I don't like to like okay, yeah, we can go to the weekly, we can zoom out like crazy, we can start looking at this and saying, okay, we see like a double bottom pattern here and blah blah blah. But the thing is that when you start zooming out too much, you can, especially when you're with a crypto that's like in price discovery mode, the same way that SUI basically is in. It's not. I personally don't find it very helpful to go further back and be like, okay, I can see this huge pattern, and I'm going to calculate. Let's say just here, just like off my naked eye, it should have probably topped around like should have topped around this level, or like even less than this level, somewhere around $4 at the maximum is where it should have topped out based on the double bottom pattern here. But of course it kept going. It's probably going to keep going higher. So we just have to look at only the most recent stuff that's behind us and like look at what's in front of us. It's kind of like, you can think of it kind of like driving a car. It's like you have a rear view mirror that can like see a little bit behind you, but it's not you're not going to drive all the way back to where you were just driving to check if there's a car there, right? You're just going to look in the rear view as far as you can see in the rear view without getting too crazy, all the way to I guess it depends on where you live, but you get the metaphor that I'm saying. It's like all you see in the rear view is like, whatever it is, the hundreds of meters behind you, and all you see in front of you is the hundreds of meters in front of you, and maybe there's a turn and you have no idea which way it's going to go. That's the way you have to think about trading crypto. I think. It's like you're driving
objects
a car.
In the mirror appear closer than they look in real life. So that's
shit. That's a good one. That's a good one. Anyway, so yeah. Any questions, guys? Comments, concerns, anything about about SUI?
SUI. Well, all I can say is, as a SUI holder, the last couple of months with that have been an absolute joy for me, because it's been crazy, hasn't it? And you, Dan, like you've talked about this a few times in the Coin Bureau Club Discord and everything. You kind of consider SUI to basically be a GameFi play now, is that right?
Yes. So I don't want to get too down into a rabbit hole, but the original reason why I bought SUI over the summer was because I believe that SUI and Aptos are like the top two Solana killers. The reason I say this is because Anatoly himself has admitted in interviews that Aptos, SUI, like these move-based blockchains, are like he sees as a big threat to Solana, and he also said that Base is actually also a threat to Solana. So it's really interesting that we see a lot of activity on Base now. But anyway, so my initial thesis as to why I bought SUI was because it was a Solana killer. But of course, like each crypto, especially now as like the crypto market matures and evolves, we're kind of seeing this like app chain thesis like from Cosmos kind of play out, right? And what's interesting is we seem to be, where I think Cosmos got it wrong is that they assumed, and now I'm going on a whole tangent here, but of course, for those unfamiliar, like Cosmos, of course, is this very popular cryptocurrency, and the Cosmos thesis was that like the most adopted, the most popular applications will eventually need their own blockchains, because they're going to get so popular that they're going to be like, if there's too many people doing too many things on one chain, then basically the chain is just going to be non-functional, the same way that Ethereum was in the 2017 cycle, 2018 with the CryptoKitties hype and whatever. And the Cosmos app chain thesis is basically, okay, that means each popular application like Uniswap and whatever is going to need its own chain. And of course, Uniswap is launching its own layer 2 and whatever. But for most of crypto, I would say that we're in this very interesting stage where it's not necessarily that these like layer 1s and layer 2s, because of course, like most layer 1s and layer 2s are like general purpose, right? But we're starting to see each layer 1 and layer 2s like move toward not move towards specific applications, but towards specific narratives, which makes sense, right? Like you say, okay, I'm going to specialize in this narrative, and then the most popular application on that chain, maybe someday it'll need a layer 2 on SUI. Like who knows? I know SUI is super scalable, so it might not need that. But just for the sake of explanation, you're basically seeing that all these chains are going into their own little ecosystems. Like Avalanche is kind of getting into GameFi, SUI kind of getting into GameFi, right? And with like the handheld gaming device. And I'm personally very bullish on the GameFi narrative. So for me, it's kind of like a win-win, because we have a scenario where SUI is pumping, in my opinion, right now so far, it's been pumping a lot because other people do see it as a Solana killer, but I don't think enough people see it as a GameFi play. And what's really cool about GameFi is that GameFi as a narrative hasn't really gotten big yet. So imagine like all this rally, similar. It's honestly, it's kind of similar scenario to like BNB, where it's like this whole rally for SUI has occurred at a time where, you know, SUI isn't really like a super adopted. Of course, I know there's lots of like DeFi activity and like lots of stuff being built, but when we're thinking in terms of the narrative that it falls into, like the GameFi narrative hasn't really gotten that big yet. And even without the GameFi narrative getting big, SUI's already like rallied like crazy. So just imagine how much bigger it's going to get when the GameFi narrative does come around. Of course, I'm not trying to get people too excited, but this is the way that I kind of that I'm looking at SUI through like these days, and also for Aptos, which I think is going to fall more under like payments or something. But you know, that remains to be seen, I guess. I know not everyone's sold on that thesis, but anyway.
It's an interesting one for sure. Yeah. Well, I could talk about SUI all day and this thesis of yours, Dan. But we should move on to virtuals, because virtuals are so hot right now, isn't it? Like you know, everyone's talking about it. The AI agent thing is blowing up. You know, I'm just every time I look at the virtuals chart, I just get the biggest dose of FOMO. So, talk us through what you're seeing now.
There's some guy in the CoinBureau Discord who called the virtuals a few months ago, right? I mean, this is where all the alpha has been said, guys. I mean, I'm hearing to the grapevine that this CoinBureau Discord, the members Discord, has got so much alpha, especially here. So, guy, you got to be, you got to stand tuned, bro.
I'm sitting there reading Kevin's stuff and going like, this is really interesting. Like, you know, I didn't know anything about AI agents, and then sort of, you know, my attention gets grabbed by something else, and I forget all about it. Next thing I know, virtuals has punched through the ceiling. But Dan, tell us what you're seeing on the chart for this, because this is fascinating.
So very, very similarly, I guess, like to SUI and I mean in general, like, so of course virtuals is fairly new, at least on this exchange. I know it's been around for a while, but it only recently started listing on sexes in size. We're on KuCoin now, which we do have a deal for in the deals page. I personally love KuCoin a lot. I know there was like some fun around it like last year or whenever that was. But I've never had issues with KuCoin. I think it's awesome exchange. But like, anyway, so looking at these, so we're on the daily here, of course, as always. And unless otherwise specified, I should say. And so we're looking at the virtual chart, and we have to ask, okay, like where did this most recent rally, like where is kind of like the base that it launched from? And you could make the case, oh, it's all the way down here at like $1.2 or whatever. Sure, you know, this is where the nuance comes into trading, is that some people would argue that the base of this most recent move is actually somewhere around $1.2 or $1.3. I don't see it that way. I think the base is somewhere closer to around $2. So we basically there have like our starting point. Maybe I'll write it out here just for the sake of clarity. So we have $2 as the starting point for the most recent rally, and then we have to ask, okay, so now that we have the starting point, like where's the resistance, like where were prices kind of struggling to get above? I would make the case that it was somewhere around $3.5, and the reason why I say that, and it's similar to the $2 level also, is you can see that prices would like wick up to that level, and then when you see a wick like that, I don't know if those of you who are watching on stream can see. I know it's a little bit tricky to see. But when you see a daily candle with a long wick on top, means people are taking profit, and a long wick on the bottom means people are buying the dip. The reason why those wicks happen, in my opinion, is probably mostly because of leverage or whatever else. I should repeat. The reason why we get so overextended, like the reason why prices will drop so much, like is because of leverage. And in the case of something like a dip, when people see that there's like a huge liquidation and they see like a deviation, especially below this like $2 level, which is like a key psychological level, then people will buy into that. And that's how you end up with the wick. Like the drop down is caused by leverage, and then the wick, like the candle part where everyone's buying up the dip, is caused by people coming in and being like, this is super cheap. Like someone just got liquidated, I'm going to come and buy this. So that's how you end up with those types of candles. Anyway, we have a starting point of around $2, and then the resistance here I would say is quite clearly around $3.5, because you can see this wick up here went to 3.5, the same way it kind of went down here to around $2. So maybe I'll write that out too, is just so everyone's on the same page. And of course, all we have to do then is we have to just look at the difference between these two levels. So the difference there is $1.5, which would give a target of roughly 3.5. We're looking at around $5, which of course, you know, it was wicked up right into that $5 level, which is a key psychological level. So I think that you know, it's funny because I was preparing this chart before. I know I covered it on the trading channel as well a little bit. To be honest, even at the time, I know it was fairly recently, but even at the time, it was fairly tricky to read. Like when a crypto is rallying so much, it's really hard to get us, like, especially when it's hitting all-time high after all-time high. It's like it's really hard to sit there and be like, yeah, it's going to top out at this level when there's just so much FOMO, right, around virtuals. But I guess in this case, I do think that the local top is probably in. there was two daily wicks into the $5 level of people, people probably taking a lot of profit around that level. I think there's been some reports. It's unfortunate that I didn't add it for the stream, but some of you might have seen, I think on Twitter/X, that there's reports of insiders selling virtuals. Oh yeah, and the vulnerability. But it was the thing that was really funny to me though, and I shared it in the Discord as well, was like one of these virtuals agents, AI XBT, I think, said like, it's like, someone asked it, which AI agent crypto do you hate the most, and it said I wouldn't touch virtual with a 10-foot pole. And it's funny because it was made by virtual.
Throwing shade, it's the child is throwing shade at the parent, man. The hell.
No, my personal opinion is I'm pretty sure
it's gone rogue.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that this AI XBT was probably able to detect that. I think it was able to detect that virtual was overbought based on, again, I'm not familiar with like what's going on in the back end of that AI agent, but I can see that it's like scouring like a lot of publicly available sources. So just based on whatever basic sentiment analysis or whatever that it's doing, it can probably get a sense that this thing's probably overbought. And I think that's why it said what it did. But
just scour tweets on crypto Twitter, and then basically, so it's just echoing the current narrative. Who knows?
Yeah, maybe. But anyway, so what I think is going to happen next for virtual, I do think the local top has been hit. I'm very comfortable saying that, especially it's a nice round number, like $5, same like 100K or 50K for Bitcoin, right? And I think it's going to probably like chop around for a little bit. I don't think it's going to fall all the way back down to this $2 level. It's probably going to chop around this range for a little bit longer. Like you can see back here, that's kind of what happened. It rallied up and chopped around this range, and then it kept moving higher. We're probably going to see the same thing, but it's probably going to be even more extended, especially now that there's a lot of, I don't want to say dilution because I feel like that's a little bit unfair. I know like people use that with like meme coins and like whatever, but I wouldn't necessarily say dilution. I just don't think that the AI agent's narrative is one that is like, I don't think it's one that's going to be around, like, let's say in a month or two. I don't think it's going to be, let's say like number one on trending, right? Maybe it'll be like number two or number three, but the peak of the AI agent hype, at least in the short term, I think is over. And I think that this is reflected in the virtual. And like you were saying, Nick, like all this stuff about the vulnerability, I'm sure that there's people who found, I mean, I can't say for sure, but I imagine there's people who found that a lot sooner. And maybe people were even saying it, but it was just getting shouted down as like FUD, FUD, FUD. But then just magically when it hits a local top and it starts to crash, that's when all the, when the FUD comes back and they're like, oh yeah, like, it's crashing because of this exploit that I'm sure some people probably knew about even before, or were even like warning about. I don't know. Again, I haven't looked into the details, so I can't say for sure. But point being, I think virtual will chop between 3.5, roughly 3.5, 3.6. Maybe it'll like deviate a little bit below that. So let's say between 3.2 and $3.6. It'll fall down to that level, maybe grind around this range, and then eventually once it does get back above that $5 level, we would basically use the same kind of math that we did before, where we would just look at the difference there, and that would be what, like also $1.5. So you'd be looking probably at around $6.5, maybe in the next couple of months. But again, we're on the daily chart here, so in the next couple of days, like between now and the end of the month, I think virtual is probably just going to chop around. But as I've been saying on the trading channel, and I'm going to say it again here, is that the risks are to the upside. So it's possible that it'll just see a green candle tomorrow and it just like keeps rallying higher. That's always possible. So I do need to put that out there. But like personally, I'm pretty comfortable saying that this is, I think I was saying that back here that the top is probably in. But in this case, I do actually think the top is probably in for local top, not cycle top.
Interesting, you didn't use. Have you used any Bollinger, your trusty Bollinger Bands on this as well to try and reinforce?
No, actually. Let me actually check. Let's take a look at that. Hold on. Where's the? I'm not familiar with the KuCoin. Hold on. I think I have to scroll up a bit more. Chart. Just give me 2 seconds here. No, I don't think it gives me the full. No, it doesn't. The KuCoin
stuff. It's cool. I mean, we can take a look at another time. I was just interested to see if there's potentially something that could either reinforce or validate certain levels.
Yeah. But I mean, here I can quickly check on a different. I'll actually check on. I can check on Bybit. Let me just delete all this, all these drawings, and then if we go here, it's very easy to find the indicator, and we just go Bollinger. So yeah, you can see the Bollinger Band would suggest that the support is somewhere closer to $3.2. But the thing is that of course it's going to take time for virtual to fall. So by the time it does fall to the Bollinger Band moving average, it'll probably be closer to like 3.3, 3.4, like $3.4, $3.5. And you can see that this is, again, like you can tell pretty clearly that virtual is in a long-term uptrend here because it's just basically it's gliding along the Bollinger Band moving average on the daily. And so I do think that it's probably, yeah, it'll probably, like, you know, again, by the time that it does touch down, the Bollinger Band moving average will probably be a little bit higher, so like 3.4 whatever dollars. Yeah. Anyway, and yeah, I guess any other questions before I get into the final one?
I don't think so. And Nick and I are going to be debating the ins and outs of AI agents and kind of versus meme coins, I think, on Monday on the news live stream over on Coin Bureau's main channel.
I'm definitely going to have to tune into that one.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much noise around this sector now, isn't it? But
yeah,
it's fascinating. Anyhow, for the sake of time, let's move on. Oh, Pepe. Beautiful.
Yes.
Okay.
But like, don't worry. I'll keep it super short because I know a lot of you guys were saying, again, you guys were asking, it's like, what are some interesting charts that you see? Pepe is definitely one that I see, and I'll come right out and say the reason why I think Pepe would rally is just because it's just like a liquidity barometer for Ethereum's ecosystem. I think that's the simplest way to explain it. I think it's going to rally because there's money flowing into Ethereum, and because ETH trades, because Pepe's on Ethereum, obviously. I guess, or rather, in case that wasn't clear enough. And yeah, when it comes to the levels here, we can make the case that you are looking at around, hold on. It's a little bit, but like, I don't know, just for this, you know what, just for the sake of simplicity, just for the sake of simple calculation, let's say that the resistance level here, we have a starting point. Again, we're just looking at the most recent move here, just from the start of November, since Trump's inauguration, basically. If we look at here, we have what, like 0.00, what is that, 4 zeros? 0.001001 as the starting point, and then let's be super conservative in the estimate and say that it's somewhere around 0.0002. Then of course the difference there is 0.000001. Anyway, so it would be so, and you take the difference and you add it there, and we get something that is in the range of around 0.0003, which is like a 50% gain from the current price. But the thing is that my personal analysis that I did on the trading channel, I actually think Pepe is going to go a little bit higher than that. I do see Pepe going to maybe closer to like 4, like 0.00004. Like maybe it'll be like 3.8 or something like that. But I do think that it's probably gonna get to that level. So somewhere in this range, let's say, and if we want to throw on the profit loss calculator here, so from current prices, you know, probably upside base case would be around 50%, 40%, 50%, and then optimistic case would be something closer to around 70%. And again, in my opinion, it wouldn't necessarily be, obviously it's not related to any fundamentals, it's a freaking meme coin, but I think that it would be related to just money flowing into Ethereum's ecosystem and Pepe being a beneficiary of that. Yeah, that's about it. And of course, Pepe is kind of like I guess one last thing I'll add. Some people see Pepe as one of these like symbols of like a Trump administration, right? Like this Pepe the Frog, and like, you know, this quote unquote like alt-right, like edgy people. So that's probably, that could be a contributing thing too. So like maybe at Trump's inauguration, you see Pepe rally because it's like, you know, the frogs have been released or whatever they're gonna say. But yeah, I mean, I guess that's kind of it. There's any other questions, comments, concerns? I know I was rambling a lot there.
Do you think, Dan? Like, I've seen some interesting theses, on crypto Twitter and elsewhere. Some people reckon Pepe could flip SHIB this cycle. Do you think that's a possibility?
Let's take a look. I actually don't think so. The simple reason being that, I guess how do I explain this? Let me pull up both though here just to put them side by side. Could it flip? Could Pepe flip SHIB temporarily? Probably. Would I say that like SHIB, or that Pepe is going to flip SHIB like permanently? I don't think so. And here, like, I'll even show you guys. Hold on. If we zoom out, like, sometimes I like to look at things through the lens of like market cap, especially when price action doesn't make sense. Like if you look at Aptos through market cap, it makes a lot more sense. But like, so this is the chart for SHIB, okay, with market cap. You can see that this thing went up to a market cap of 40 freaking billion, okay, in the last cycle. And my base case would be that most cryptos, especially the larger ones, most of them will, at an absolute minimum, they will retest their previous high price, which even when we switch between market cap and price, you're basically looking at the same thing here. because like the SHIB supply I think has been basically permanent. I know that they did like some burns and whatever and all this stuff about like giving to Vitalik, and anyway, all that stuff aside though, like I'm pretty sure at the very least SHIB will retest that level, and I don't see Pepe getting a market cap of 40 billion, especially because like Shiba Inu is more than, I don't want to say it's more than just a meme coin, it's super cliche, but it has a layer 2 as a Shibarium layer 2. To my understanding, Pepe doesn't have anything like any kind of utility at all, like no layer 2 or anything. You guys might remember that there's, even with SHIB, there's like Bone, right? Like the Shiba Swap Bone token.
Yeah.
And it's like a whole ecosystem, whereas like Pepe is just like, it's just Pepe, and all you see, well, let's actually go check it out. All you see on like the Twitter/X is just like, it's just like memes. There's no you know, what are you doing? Where's the TVL? Where's the swapping? It's just memes upon memes, right? Which I guess is what
I don't know, bro. It's kind of like if you listen to Murad's thesis, man, you know, memes of the mimetic power of some of these coins.
Yeah.
I don't
well,
know.
to be honest, like in the case of SHIB, I'll be completely honest. Like, and I guess maybe I'll cover it sometime in the next couple of weeks on the trading channel. I guess on a final note, to like be like a really shocking moment. I actually think it's possible that SHIB could hit a market cap of like 80 billion just based on this chart. I actually think that's possible. Like if it's following Dogecoin one cycle behind, then it's definitely possible. And I know that's like ridiculous, but yeah, I actually do think it's going to happen. If we go to Dogecoin here, let me just check. Oh my God, dude, loading the data. Come on, coin market cap. Yeah. See, Doge hit a market cap of around 75 billion. So if SHIB is following one cycle behind, which I actually think is a potentially realistic estimate, I actually think that SHIB, and especially because it has the layer 2, ties to Vitalik Buterin, potentially ties to Ethereum Foundation, potentially, because when you look at the photos of the Ryoshi guy who founded Shiba Inu, like the very first blog post, you might remember when we covered it on the main channel, that we mentioned how members of the Ethereum Foundation were walking with Ryoshi. It was Aya Miyaguchi, who's head of Ethereum Foundation, Vitalik Buterin, and Ryoshi, the three of them apparently walking together, like walking a Shiba Inu dog. So this is something that I think is a very like insiders to the max type of thing. And you know, and not that it's going to do poorly. I think that it's, you know, my thesis around meme coins has been that it's a number one, it's a way of getting people getting on-chain activity, like getting people to move their liquidity and everything to a chain. So that's number one, is like to attract liquidity. And number two, I think, is as a stress test, especially in the case of Solana and AI agents for Base. My hot take is that the meme coin, the whole meme coin thing on Solana and the whole AI agent thing on Base is fundamentally to stress test both chains in preparation for payments. That's my hot take. I think that, like there was even conspiracies in the previous cycle that the reason why Solana was going offline so much was because Sam Bankman-Fried was stress testing Solana because he wanted it to support tokenized stocks someday. I don't know if that's true or not. But when I see something like meme coins and like the chain is just getting completely clogged and they're just like letting it happen after all the outages, it's like there's only one reason they would do that. It's because they want to make sure it doesn't happen under a different circumstance, at least in my opinion. Like anyway, who knows? Little bit of conspiracies.
Dan, I just had a quick question. I mean, this is more on a, because especially for you, because you do a lot of the TA on some of these smaller altcoins, right? And it's something that I generally like to ask a lot of traders in crypto, especially traders who use technical analysis to analyze altcoins, and specifically smaller cap altcoins or mid cap altcoins. Yeah. And this can obviously go down to the fundamentals of technical analysis as a discipline itself. But like when you run in charts and stuff, really small cap coins, and you look at this, it's like how illiquid some of these coins can sometimes be, how idiosyncratic moves can be based on factors that sometimes just are totally outside of the charts. Like one whale decides to dump. Like how much of a risk is that? And how, can traders with conviction say, oh, this particular coin, this altcoin, this low cap or whatever, this level, I picture it, my target or whatnot, or it's breaking this trend line. Well, they do some advanced TA on some coins. Literally, you just have one whale goes and whacks it, right? So it's like, how do you square the circle between doing this analysis and realizing that there are certain things in these, especially for the smaller illiquid coins, where it can completely invalidate a formation pattern, completely invalidate an analysis because it is so idiosyncratic.
Yes. So I guess two answers there. One is that I 100% agree that it's not all that helpful on smaller cap altcoins. You'll see deviations outside of ranges all the time. Bollinger Bands probably won't help you. Support and resistance probably won't help you. The one thing that helps a little bit is to go, like, let's say more like in a longer term. If you're looking at like longer term time frames, like weekly or monthly, that can help a little bit. But like if we're thinking like, I don't know, for example, I'll actually, let me take a look here. I'll bring up, this is one meme coin that I'm personally trading, and I mentioned it on the trading channel, and I've also mentioned it on the Coin Bureau Club. So this is like this Lamiao meme coin. So of course, like this is something that I've been tracking for a while here, and of course it's just all over the place, and it's just like deviating above, deviating below. Like you can see these key levels that I had written here before, and it went like way below that. And like really the only way to kind of potentially like reduce that noise is like to zoom out to the weekly, and then this maybe gives you a little bit of a better vantage point, and you just like ignore the wicks. And you just think like, okay, like what is the general trend here? Okay, it does look like it's going to keep heading higher, and that's really the only thing that you can really identify is you just look at this and say, what is the general trend? I mean, maybe you can hold on. I'm trying to see if there's a way I can add some indicator, but no, just forget about it. Just basically for the smaller cap altcoins, really the only thing you can do is you can look and just see like, is this thing in a long-term uptrend, or not even necessarily in a long-term uptrend? Has it been in an uptrend with the rest of the crypto market, you know, like over the last while? If it has, then chances are it's going to continue to rally. And like you're saying, Nick, like you can have so many asynchronous things that happen, and like for the small caps, it's like whales, and for the large caps, I would say it's also kind of whales. And you also see like deviations around these key levels. It's just that they're not as big because the coins are much more liquid. But I would say that this applies not. I mean, it applies to all of crypto, right? It's like you have a key level in mind, and you're trading around that key level, and then a whale just comes and like squeezes shorts out of the position, or leverage longs get liquidated and it falls way more than you expected. That also happens on large caps, and that's part of why, you know, crypto is just inherently volatile, and that's why I prefer to hold small caps. If I see a nice trade on like some meme coin or something, because again, meme coins like a lot of PvP, so you know that like the types of people that you're dealing with on the other side of the screen, so to speak. It's just like other traders that are like also like seeing the same levels and stuff like that. And of course, there's a little bit of whales and whatever. But yeah, I guess long story short, Nick, is that there's no like if technical analysis was like the what do you say, the golden bullet, then everyone would be rich, right? Everyone just learned how to do it and they would all be rich. So, you know, yeah, like it's just it works like, I would say, like, I don't know, let's very good technical analysts, obviously, like they're good like 55 or 60% of the time they get it right, and then that's enough for them to make like gains over their career. But even if we were to say theoretically like something like crypto where everything is going up during a bull market, I would argue, you can make the argument that it's like 70 or 80% of the time you're going to make money on a trade, just because the trends are so obvious, like everything is just rising. So that makes, and this is part of why I think like a lot of trading channels and stuff in crypto do so well, is because when there's a bull market, like everyone looks like a genius, because you're just saying, yeah, it's going to go up, and then it goes up and everyone's like, oh my God, you're a genius. It's like, yeah, because you just know the historical cycles of crypto. But the thing is that, you know, even in that scenario where the liquidity is in your favor, where the trend is in your favor, where everything is in your favor, even in those scenarios, you can only maybe get up to like the best traders can maybe get up to like a 70 or 80% chance of win rate, because there's always going to be that 20 to 30% window where something will happen, some asynchronous event, some announcement is made, there's a whole bunch of liquidations, and you get stopped out of all your positions. And this is the case, I think, for most even trading algorithms, where it works, and then one day something happens that the algorithm didn't anticipate, it doesn't work, and you lose all the money that you made in the last year or 2 years. That's basically, I think, a lot of people, I think, who are watching this, who are traders, can probably sympathize with or relate to that viewpoint, where they're like, yeah, like I was making, and then something came out of the blue that I didn't expect, and I lost like my whole portfolio in a day, right? So this is that's crypto, man. She's cruel.
Risk management, guys. Risk management 101.
Yeah, literally.
Yeah. That's probably a good note to end on, don't you think? Like, whatever you do, guys, you know, take those profits, take money off the table, manage your risk, set your stop losses, because crypto we love it, but as you say, Dan, it can be brutal.
And follow the Coin Bureau trading channel. We need to get 49. We're still at 49.9. How is that possible, guys?
Yeah, as someone said, we're just below that key psychological level. That's the resistance. Once Coin Bureau trading gets above 50K subscribers, there's literally no ceiling. That candle's going.
That's a
that's a god candle.
That's a god candle. Yeah, 100K. We go. Absolutely. Well, yes, if you are watching, folks, well, firstly, thanks for joining today's stream. It's been a pleasure. Well, I mean, it's been great listening to Dan, hasn't it? And getting his insights.
And please do like and subscribe. Please do tell people. Please do tell your friends about Coin Bureau Trading, because it won't be sub 50K for long. And Dan is honestly one of the most knowledgeable people about crypto, I would say, probably in the world. I'm gonna put that out there.
Thank you.
It has to be said as well. No, it's I mean, I see it every day, man. And Aaron and Mariano, who we also have presenting here on the channel, are amazing as well. There's so much alpha. There's so much amazing content put out here pretty much every single day. So yeah, please do spread the word. And Nick, well, firstly, Dan, thank you so much for that. Thank you. I know you're such a busy guy. You're probably off to do something else now. But we appreciate you taking some time out on your Friday afternoon to talk with us. Yeah. And Nick, we will be live on Monday on the main channel, but we will be back talking to either Aaron or Mariano here on Coin Bureau Trading very soon.
Very soon, hopefully. Yep, keen.
Yeah, and thanks to you guys for taking the time as well. I know I'm not the only busy one here. It's a bull market. We're all busy. We're all busy as well.
It's all good, bro. Yeah. We're all growing together, man. Yeah. All good.
Yeah. It's a great time to be busy. You know, this is where the sort of 3 years of down, this is what makes up for it. So enjoy it, folks. Lock in. It's going to be a crazy year, but yeah, stick with Coin Bureau Trading and you'll be okay. All right. Thanks everyone for watching. Have a great weekend.
Cool, guys.
We will be back.
Have a great weekend
soon.
Cheers.
Okay. Let me just end things there.